So, hello everyone. This is our latest interview for with Unlock with Waqas Mirza, the CEO and founder of Avanza Innovations. Hi, Waqas. Glad to have you with us today. Uh,
Hi,
Waqas has
Lara.
Waqas has been in the blockchain scenes for a very long time. They've been doing amazing projects in the region. And today we're going to have a short talk with him to see, what's happening, the latest projects and future ones. Waqas, again, it's a pleasure. Just to start,
Likewise.
getting into everything, the recent announcement was within the UAE with the UAE Trade Connect project with Etisalat. That you have been for 2 years working on it, and it's finally out and commercialized. So, how important was this project, and what will come out of it? What will other projects, future projects, come out of it?
Okay, so purely from a technology point of view, this was a very exciting project. We go after projects which challenge us. This was a beautiful sort of a fusion of blockchain and AI, and it solves a industry problem. So purely from a software development point of view, from a plumbing point of view, this project was a delight to work on. In terms of its business impact, so this is a project where I hope you understand and the audience understands that this is, if they don't, I'll give a bit of a background. So this is a consortium of banks which is trying to address a problem of invoice discounting frauds in the country. This is the first use case of UAE Trade Connect. Now, on one hand, banks do want to facilitate SMEs in UAE, and we all understand that SMEs are the backbone of any economy. But just because of a few bad cases, the banks are a little conservative in terms of their lending in this area to SMEs. What this platform does is that it provides sort of a safety net for banks to be able to go and be less conservative in terms of financing and access to financing to SMEs. Now, if you look at the big picture impact of this kind of a platform, this is a catalyst for economic activity, because if SMEs get more access, easy access to financing and funding against invoice discounting or open trade account, obviously they're going to have much better cash flow, and obviously we all understand the trickle down effect of these kind of things. So this project is very important for UAE. For Avanza, obviously it's been an honor to be part of something so major. Another aspect of this project is that this is the first commercial blockchain network of 8+ banks. There are another 4 banks that are in the pipeline. So you'll have more than a dozen banks that are part of a blockchain network. And so many wonderful things that you can do on top of this network. This being the first use case, there are many more use cases in the pipeline that we jointly with the steering group of UTC and Etisalat, we're conceiving and planning to roll out in coming months.
That's amazing, Waqas. I think this is a major milestone in the blockchain implementation in the UAE and in the region. And isn't it a first? Have there been a lot of this done in the world? Or is this one of the very few use cases in this area?
There have been other implementations in the world. The positioning has been slightly different. So there have been bidding platforms where a SME would put out their trade documents or invoices onto a platform, and then banks would bid on who would finance that. And we've seen that those platforms have really not taken off in terms of adoption, because banks generally don't want to be part of a bidding war, or there's very little incentive for banks to be part of that kind of a structure. Here, the important thing about UTC, and I think one thing that's very distinctive, is that this is led by banks. So right from conceiving the solution, designing the solution, we've had during the project implementation multiple working groups of banks. So we had a compliance group, we had an IT security group. So banks, based on their years and years of experience of this business, have conceived, implemented, derived the solution. And now the dynamics of the steering groups are such that Etisalat and Avanza, being the operator and the developer of the platform, take a back seat. It's the banks who decide what needs to be done further, how the solution needs to be tweaked further, what new use cases have to be done. So the other initiatives in other parts of the world, I'm not aware of any other initiative in UAE for sure, but I know of any such initiatives in other parts of the world. They have not been banks led. And that is why, it was a fintech that launched this kind of a platform. And then obviously it was a challenge for them to bring banks on board.
Yeah, I think that's
but
one of
there
the
have been.
most. I think that's the key thing, is that it was led by the banks themselves, and this makes it a success, especially when you're talking about blockchain implementations. And it's a great job. So well done, Waqas. This brings me to my second question, is that you have been working with a lot of government entities, a lot of private sector entities in the GCC, in the UAE for some time now. And this has given you an edge, right? And is helping you to expand. Can you explain more about how your basic, startup in the region is helping you to expand into other continents?
So I think we were part of the first wave of disruption of fourth industrial revolution, in UAE and other GCC countries, where we did a lot of digital government transformation projects, achieving paperless journeys for government entities. We did a lot of financial regulation and supervision projects, UAE Trade Connect being an example, then the national eKYC project that we are doing for Central Bank of Bahrain and Benefit. And then we did a lot of ports and logistics automation with ports authorities, customs authorities. Now, the way these platforms have been implemented is unprecedented in the world. So, I mean, we've known that, for the past 20, 30 years, a lot of government entities worldwide have invested a lot in the automation of their internal processes or processes that they're, customer facing processes. But industry collaborations have not really taken off, so so a customs authority with logistics companies, with e-commerce companies, for example, they've never come together in terms of a unified citywide or a national platform. Same is the case with banking and finance industry. So a lot of good work has gone into automation of banking, which is, the relationship between the banks and their customers, whether they're consumers or corporate customers. But you'll not find a lot of examples of banks coming together at a national scale to solve an industry problem. And then you keep, going through different verticals, healthcare, logistics, government. So the kind of work that we've done in this part of the world is unprecedented. And that is why a lot of governments are taking a lot of inspiration from this. And that is why, I mean, when these discussions, and you probably understand that there's a lot of government to government knowledge sharing takes place, in different regions. There are a lot of governments, by the way, that a lot of inspiration from the kind of growth and automation that Dubai is doing or UAE is doing. And when they hear of these projects, they evidently, or eventually find out that Avanza has been doing these kind of projects. And then they reach out to us and say that, can you replicate this in our country or for us? And we obviously do not want to sort of replicate exactly. There's no plug and play in this line of work. So whenever we approach a country to solve a problem which is in line with their 2025 or 2030 vision, we first try to understand the aspiration of that country, whether that country wants to become a tourism hub, whether they want to become a manufacturing hub, whether they want to become a trade hub. And then based on that, we identify 2, 3, 4 projects for them, give them a timeline, and then we basically implement those projects. Or we conceive those projects. So this is the phase that we are going through right now in different parts of the world. So references and experiences that we've gained in GCC, in UAE in particular, we're trying to replicate them for other countries, but with a very acute sense and awareness that we have to localize these solutions for the demands of those countries and those economies.
Amazing, Waqas. I can see that you're moving towards from an implementation, service solution provider to more advisory and implementation. And I think that's a uniqueness as well with Avanza. Which continents, which countries, which countries are most interested today?
I can't disclose the exact names, but
Okay.
there are at least 3 Central Asian countries in Central Asia, which are trying to sort of replicate different aspects of automation in their economy. They're trying to do a few things, in line with their leadership's visions. There have been some interest from and very advanced level discussions with countries in Africa. So especially the more structured economies, in East Africa, they're very interested in sort of picking up a few of these projects. And then South Asia, we've just started. I think this is the only thing I can probably disclose. We've started a national eKYC pilot for Pakistan, with three biggest banks under PBA, which is Pakistan Banker Association, and under the guidance of State Bank of Pakistan. And this has been possible because they've seen that something that we've done in Bahrain or in some other country has worked. It is something that solves a real industry problem of KYC and AML, and then based on our experience, they've sort of hired us to do this pilot, and which will eventually hopefully be rolled out countrywide.
Excellent. Congratulations, Waqas. I'm going to come now to my third question. So today, I mean, you've done a lot in the past. You're advising for governments in several countries. But what are some of the kind of like examples you can give us today of what current projects you're working on in the region? I mean, one or two big ones, or things that you think are interesting.
All right. So this is something that we're doing with Dubai Customs, which is very interesting. We did a pilot with them last year with Dubai Customs and DHL. And now this pilot is being sort of rolled out into a citywide implementation with 3 free zones, Jafza, Dabza, and Dubai South, joining the platform. Some of the biggest e-commerce companies joining the platform, and then some of the biggest logistics companies joining this platform. So the objective is to set up Dubai as a very attractive hub for e-commerce companies to set up shop over here. And one of the biggest leakages in the e-commerce business is the return goods. So you order something and it's the wrong order, you have to return it. And the stats that we've seen from the different e-commerce companies that we've worked with is that 45 to 60% items are generally returned in any e-commerce business because the item is either damaged or it's the wrong order. Now, what happens is when these orders get returned, the return custom duty has to be borne by the e-commerce company, and which they cannot necessarily pass on to the customer because that is bad customer service, apparently. So the snowball effect of these returned duties is so big that a lot of e-commerce companies at times go bust just because of this issue. So this e-commerce logistics chain, which Dubai Customs is championing, solves this particular problem that when a item is returned back, the customs will not charge a duty. Dubai Customs will not charge a duty on that particular item because they, through the shared ledger with the logistics company and the e-commerce company and the free zone, know that this is the same item that is being returned, and hence there's no need to charge the bill of duty. Now, what that does is, now this is a very special subsidy. This is a very special provision that Dubai Customs is giving. I mean, if you look at the short-term view, so they're in a way giving away or discounting the duties that they could collect. But they have a longer term vision. Dubai's leadership always has a long-term vision of things. And their longer term vision is that they want to attract a lot of e-commerce companies into the city to set up their headquarters, regional headquarters and warehouses over here. And they get this benefit of saving the customs duty. So this is a very interesting project, I think, for the city at a city scale. We're working with a big oil and gas company. I probably cannot disclose the name of the biggest oil and gas company in the region, on a procure-to-pay invoice verification platform that is going to bring huge efficiencies to the way procurement is done, and then payments are done to the suppliers. So that's another project that we're working on. Then another interesting trend that's happening is that all the projects that we've done in 2019 and 2020 and even this year, we're getting a lot of new participating entities joining these platforms. So for example, Digital Silk Road, you're aware of that platform, led by DP World and Dubai Chambers. Now there are new use cases coming out of these platforms, and they're tying up with different entities which were not part of the pilot project, So there's an expansion of these existing networks in terms of new use cases and in terms of new entities onboarding that is happening. So this is again very interesting. So yeah, these are. I mean, I could go on for a while, but
No, thank you
I
very
we have
much,
limited time.
Waqas. I think that the two use cases mentioned and the ones that are growing from previous use cases are very interesting. And we've also have an interview in Unlock, so anyone who wants to read further into what's happening can do so. My last question, uh, based on your experience working with all of these governments, the private sector entities, and blockchain has been slowly developing. It's not taken off the way a lot of people had thought. What is the biggest piece of advice that you want to give, governments and businesses who are going into digitization and want to utilize blockchain and so forth?
I think it's a good sign that blockchain has not been adopted very, very quickly, because things that get adopted very quickly turn out to be a fad most of the times. So that is why I think and blockchain, as we all understand, is this back end. It's the plumbing end of things. It's not the front end of things. It's not like AR and VR. You can't feel it, you can't touch it. It's a back end technology. So that is why I think some of the entities who did not understand the technology or the implications of what can be done with this technology did a few use cases, did a few POCs, pilots, which did not see the light of day. All the projects that we are involved in and which are now growing into bigger networks and platforms, and multiple use cases are being launched on it. These organizations have thought through of what this platform is going to look like in the next 4, 5, 10 years. So they've taken a long-term view of the initiative that they wanted to do on blockchain, not just in terms of the business problem that they're trying to solve, but also in terms of other aspects of any software or solution, which is how do you do the housekeeping of this, how do you do the archiving of this, what happens when you have to migrate from one version to another, the new versions that keep on coming. So even in terms of the management of the technology stack, as well as the business aspect of things, so they jointly, with our advice sometimes, these entities, especially the championing entities, have a very firm grasp on where they want to achieve, what they want to achieve now, and where this platform will grow. So my advice will be to anyone who's wanting to embark on their blockchain journey, think this through over a timeline of at least 4 to 5 years. That the problem that you're trying to solve through blockchain, is blockchain the right solution or the right technology to do this? And B, if you do, what happens when new entities join, or after you've done your pilot, how does this platform grow, and does it actually give you an ROI, in addition to just claiming that you've done something on blockchain?
Yeah, most important, does it give you an ROI, or does it
Absolutely,
help
this
you
is
to
very, very
change your
important.
business, to make it
More efficient. Yeah.
exactly? I want to thank you very much, Waqas. It was a lovely interview. It's always lovely to speak with you, and we wish you here at Unlock, the best for the future. I want to thank our listeners, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Unlock Blockchain, and we hope to speak to you all soon. Thanks, Waqas.
Thank you very much, Laura. Thank you. It's always a pleasure speaking with you. Have a lovely day.
You
Bye,
too.
everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.